comes up to like 5 grams. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. So I just chucked them down and walked home. And I'm like, not really sure what to expect. I'm just like, whatever. I'm sitting there, just chilling and listening to music. And whoa, man, it happened so fast. It came on strong. And next thing I know, this song that I'd listened to dozens of times before, just a song. But now all of a sudden, this song just took on a whole new meaning. And it's like Ram Dass says in one of his talks, he's like, I found something so pure and so beautiful that I had to keep going back.
This podcast is brought to you by MAPS Canada. As MAPS Canada works to support education, research, and advocacy in psychedelic medicine, we recognize that scientific understanding in this field continues to evolve. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or professional advice. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of MAPS Canada.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MAPS Canada podcast. My name is Rielle Capler. I'm the Executive Director of MAPS Canada, and I will be your host today. Today, we are very honored to be joined by Shawn Shabaquay, whose bio I'm going to read for you right now. Shawn is a consultant based in Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation, Ontario, with 3 years experience in an Anishinaabe-Moan revitalization. He specializes in proposal writing, project development, and language research. He's worked alongside leaders and elders to help restore Anishinaabe-Moan in his community. Over the years, he wrote the Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation language plan, raised over $700,000 in grants, and helped develop various language initiatives. Shawn graduated from UBC in 2021 with a Bachelor's of Arts, major in sociology, and minor in First Nation studies. Recently, he's participated in various trainings and workshops related to language revitalization, such as archival research and transcribing Anishinaabe-Moan. In the past year, he became passionate about health and fitness. He lost 163.2 pounds in 9.5 months through diet and exercise. As a result, he recently started a YouTube channel, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this one.
That's okay. It's okay.
The MMIWG channel, and a report called A Run for MMIWG, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. He's fundraising for the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS Canada, and currently raised over $5,000. His goal is to run 40 kilometers from Dryden to Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation on July 1st, 2026. We are really excited to have Shawn with us today, and thank you so much, Shawn, for being here.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rielle. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to you and to MAPS for allowing me to share my story.
Thank you. Did you want to introduce yourself in any other way, or was that a good intro for you?
I guess I could say a few words in my Anishinaabe language, just a general introduction, I guess. So it'd be Bonjour, Ogama Penese Indishnikas, Magizian Totem, Wabiganos Gaigan and Donji. So it basically translates to my Anishinaabe name is Chief Thunderbird. I'm part of the Eagle Clan, and I'm from Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation.
Thank you for that. So I thought we could start by talking about your upcoming run for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So I wanted to understand, what was, I understand the purpose is to raise awareness for that. And how did this come about? How did that idea come about for you to do this run?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Ironically enough, it actually it came to me during one of my jogs in the morning. It seems like a lot of my ideas kind of occur in the morning during those runs. And so this would have been back in February, I think. And it just kind of started off as an idea, because at that point I was doing a lot of walking, and then I transitioned to jogging. And so when I began jogging, once I got up to like an hour, that's kind of when I was like, man, I'm kind of starting to get good at this. I'm kind of like, that sort of thing. Right. And then, yeah, so it just kind of percolated for a while. It just kind of sat there and just kind of, when I flew out here in March for the language camp, I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about it with a few people and just kind of, get some feedback and that sort of thing. And so, and then, yeah, basically, as soon as I had mentioned it to a few people, it kind of took on a life of its own. It all of a sudden just became this like, oh, okay, I guess I should do that. And it was just kind of went like that. And so shortly after that, I believe I made a YouTube video. It was just a short little like 3-minute blurb on what I wanted to do. And then basically from that point on, I just mostly focused on training. I was just, work it out like a madman sort of thing. And, that's, yeah. So that's kind of how it came about. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does it entail? What will this run be like?
So yeah, if it goes the way I envision it, what I want to do is start around 5:30 in the morning. Part of the reason for that is to take advantage of that like early morning kind of coolness, because it gets super hot out here, right? So you want to try and take advantage as much of that as possible. And so if my math is correct, it should take about 5.5 hours to get from Dryden to here. So I should get here at about 11 in the morning. And so I've been working with a few friends of mine and a few elders in the community to kind of organize this little community event. It's more of a ceremony, I guess you could say. And so it's going to kind of be conducted in that way. And so yeah, it's just meant to be a small little thing. I mean, I would say too that the reason I'm doing this is not so much political as it is more cultural or spiritual, more spiritual reasons, I guess you could say. But if that other stuff kind of happens on its own, then that's fine. But that's not really why I'm doing it. So yeah.
So are you running alone, or are other people joining you?
Well, just given the distance, a lot of people are kind of like, well, some people said they might join in Wabigoon town, which is maybe about a third of the distance. And a few people had mentioned maybe doing it by bike. So that remains to be seen. Ultimately, though, I'm pretty sure it'll most likely just be me, which is fine. But I think there'll be people here at the conference center waiting to kind of participate in that sort of thing. So, which seems fine to me. And so my girlfriend's going to film some of it. I want to get a drone and kind of get some aerial footage. And then afterwards, maybe piece together a mini documentary or something. So, yeah.
That sounds cool. So what has your training journey been like? Like, how do you get to be able to run 5.5 hours straight?
Okay, yeah, no, that's a good question. Well, okay, so this is where it started for me. When I first started my weight loss journey, this would have been July 1st of last year. And when I first started, I was very heavy, very I think I was 395 at the time. And I could barely walk 8 minutes, like around the block, huffing and puffing, right? And so just kind of, okay, that first day, all right, I made it around the block. Great. That's a victory. Next day, same thing. And anyway, slowly over time, incrementally increasing the distance. So maybe after a week, I think it was like 2 blocks, and then kind of just slowly over time. And then next thing you know, I was probably, after a few months, I was probably walking about anywhere from like 3 to 4 hours a day. So it was usually broken up into 2. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening sort of thing. So like a 2-hour and a 2-hour. Good opportunity to listen to podcasts and just music and just kind of reflect and that sort of thing, right? And then yeah. And then so I hit a plateau. I hit this plateau. I couldn't get past it. I was like, man, I'm walking so much. I'm dieting. I'm like, can't seem to get past a certain point. And so it was around that time. That's when I realized I needed to start like jogging and stuff. And so that's when jogging kind of became part of that. And then, yeah, same thing. When I first started jogging, it was like maybe 15, 20 minutes at first, and honestly, it was clumsy and clunky and kind of just not really that good at it, kind of sucked at it. Right. But I was like, whatever, you know what, I'm doing this, and I'm kind of like, whatever. And again, similar to the walking thing, it just slowly, incrementally increased. And then next thing I know, after a few months, it was just, man, I was able to do like a 3-hour run, no problem, and carry on with my day like nothing had happened. And it was just kind of strange, and it just kind of went like that. I would say a big part of it too, though, is like for about 9 months there, my diet was so strict. Like I was super strict with my diet. I was having these health shakes from Booster Juice. And what's the other place? I think it's Body Energy Club, the blueberry acai smoothie. Oh, man, so many nutrients, super healthy. But yeah, basically I was staying below a 2,000 calorie threshold a day. And so by maintaining that and, plus the exercise that I was just, the results I was getting were honestly like pretty, like I was getting results fast, I guess is what I was trying to say. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that can be quite motivating to see the results, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So, okay. So each Tuesday, so I had this ritual. Each Tuesday morning is when I would weigh myself, because I wanted to have like a baseline, because throughout the day, your weight kind of fluctuates. You eat, you drink water and stuff, and so your weight will fluctuate. So you want to weigh it at the same time. So for me, that was Tuesday mornings. And so every Tuesday morning, I'd get on the scale. And each time I saw some improvement or some progress, that was like, yes, okay, we're going to keep going. And it's just like, oh man, it's just, yeah, it became this, wow. It became this positive reinforcement loop. And so it just kind of went like that. Yeah. So it really was interesting how that worked. And then about after 6 or 7 weeks, I was like, holy man, I better start keeping track of this. This is actually working. So from that point on, that's why there's a bit of a gap. I sent that weight loss data, but yeah. And so from there, each week I started writing it down on my calendar. So yeah, it was motivating.
That is
so, yeah.
super inspiring. And I mean, that's a year anniversary. Like that's so much to have accomplished in a year, like the weight loss and running like that much. So that's significant. And, it's also July 1st is also Canada Day. So it's a significant day to be doing a run for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Totally. 100%. Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely. So it almost becomes like a silent protest, I guess, right? It's definitely, it's a silent protest, and it's acknowledging that, Canada has played a role in the genocide in this country. And part of that is the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And so kind of, like that.
It's a appropriate day to draw attention to that ongoing, historical and ongoing problem. So that's wonderful. Yeah. And, in terms of your, weight loss, anniversary, how did you get to this point? Like, what's the trajectory that got you to this place of, focusing on the weight loss and doing this run?
Well, I mean, I guess just to backtrack a little bit, like I wasn't always like overweight. Right. There was a time in my life where I was more, kind of how I am now, I guess. But over the course of maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 years, I slowly kind of started gaining weight. And it was weird. And it's one of those things you don't realize until it's kind of too late. And you're like, oh man, whoa. And then you kind of start to, okay, so just a little context there. Okay. So fast forward June 30th of last year, I woke up like 4 a.m. I was having these like heart palpitations or something, or irregular heartbeats. I honestly don't know what it was. All I know is it woke me up and it freaked me out. And I immediately started thinking like, oh man, this is because of my, obesity and that sort of thing. And I started thinking about all these different things, and so anyways, it kind of merged into like an anxiety attack, I guess you could say. Cause I was kind of like being like, man, what is going on here? And anyways, long story short, that kind of merged into a midlife crisis, because then I started thinking about all this stuff, right? I just like, because, for me, I honestly believed for a moment there, I was like, man, I might actually die because of this, and it's like, and the one thing in my mind, I was like, if I die, it's going to be because I couldn't be bothered to walk 15, 20 minutes a day. And it was just like, man, it hit me so hard. And so I eventually reached out to my brother, and I went to go visit him and talk with him. And I'm just pouring my heart out. I'm just like, man, I'm scared. I'm this, I'm that. And he just listened, he just listened. And in that process, I kind of had an epiphany, I guess you could say. And so the next day, July 1st of last year, when my fridge, I threw out all my pop, all desserts, all junk food, all big garbage bag, like 2 garbage bags of stuff, just threw it out. And I looked on my phone, I found Booster Juice. And so I started ordering from there at first. And then later on, the Body Energy Club, because I found they had better shakes. But yeah, that's what prompted it. That's what kind of got the journey started. And then from there, it just kind of, once that decision was made, it was just like, it was so like, and sometimes that's what it takes to do something. You need to be shook like that in order to take that kind of action. So yeah, that was what prompted it. So yeah.
And it's so important to listen to that, right? To listen to that message when you get it, and which you did.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Now, if you want to support and become part of the psychedelic movement, feel free to donate to MAPS Canada at the link in the description below. Thank you for helping our mission to support equitable access to legal and regulated psychedelic medicines for all Canadians.
So then you had shared with me, I don't know, if you want to share any of your, like experiences with psychedelics, and kind of how did that happen? What was your history? You talked about some history with ceremonies and the Native American church. So could you share with us your connection with psychedelics and even ceremonies, and how that, moved into psychedelics for you?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I guess, trying to think here. So I guess, again, we'll have to rewind the clock a bit. So if we go back to 2009, I guess just to give a little more context, historically speaking, especially in my younger days, I really struggled with addiction, even to the point where I was on the downtown east side. I was at the Regent Hotel for a time. That's a whole, other story or whatever. But long story short, one day I was in a treatment center / recovery house, and an elder there was going to a Sundance. And so for me, that was that was a significant spiritual event for me, because after that Sundance, I stayed clean and sober for like 5 years. It just straightened me right out. And so in the process of doing that, I attended a lot of sweat lodges each week at that time. And so I met a friend, and he was the one who was connected to the Native American church. I myself am not an active member or anything like that. I just happen to know someone who was, and kind of invited me. So I just to make that little distinction, or, but yeah. And so anyways, this would have been back in, I think it was September 2010. Yeah. It was in Surrey, BC, behind this house down this little hill. It's in this like teepee. And I remember as soon as I walked in, it's so weird. As soon as I walked in, I had this like deja vu or something. It was like, man, I feel like I've been here before, or my ancestors have been here before, or just kind of this weird thing. And it was just, it was subtle but noticeable. And so participated in that. And so when peyote is done in that ceremony and in that way, it kind of creates that container. I guess it creates a good environment for that to happen. And all the things are it all ties in together real nicely. And I feel fortunate that I was able to participate in those. I went to 5 total over the course of a few years. It was just based on, whenever happened to get invited sort of thing, right? A lot of those experiences, that was between like 2010, 2015. My experience with psilocybin, though, kind of came later, and almost by accident, I guess. I don't know. So do you want to get into that? I can get into that if you want.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, one day I was just at a dispensary, and I just happened to have $30. All right. It was just pure, that's what I had. So I was like, hey, can I get some mushrooms and whatever this will get me? He's like, okay. So he like takes it and weighs it on the scale and stuff, and comes up to like 5 grams. So I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. So I just chucked him down and walked home. And I'm like, not really sure what to expect. I'm just like, whatever. I'm sitting there, just chilling and listening to music. And whoa, man, it happened so fast. It came on strong. And next thing I know, this song that I'd listened to dozens of times before, just a song. But now all of a sudden, this song just took on a whole new meaning. And it was like, it just became this really, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's difficult for me to put into words. But yeah, let's just say it was a very powerful, profound psychedelic experience. And that kind of got my, jumping in the deep end, so to speak, that kind of got me, cause I spent a good week after that, just kind of wondering like, what was that? I don't know what that was, but whatever it was, it's like Ram Dass says in one of his talks, he's like, I found something so pure and so beautiful that I had to keep going back. And it was like, when he said that, that resonated so strongly with me. Cause it's like, man, I just wanted to keep going back, experiencing that and knowing more about it. And so yeah, I started like watching documentaries. I remember I watched Neurons to Nirvana, Fantastic Fungi. I started getting books from the library and just trying to like learn as much as I can about this thing, and just kind of, went like that for a time. Unfortunately, I was still, well, I guess I still am young, but I was younger at that time and still hadn't quite overcome my addiction issues. And so even though I had this like 3-4 month period, what I call mushroom heaven, I would eventually relapse. Right. And so I kind of, went down that path again for a while, but I would rediscover psilocybin later. And then I would say this too, a lot of those early psilocybin experiences, I kind of look at it as like a mycelial network. It's like, sometimes mycelium stays underground for years, right? Before the fruiting body will come up. Like when the conditions are right, it'll start to mushroom or whatever. And so I don't know, sometimes I think about some of my experiences like that. Like sometimes it took years before I finally realized like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, okay. And you kind of like that, right? And so especially in the last year, a lot of like these epiphanies have kind of caught up with me. And then also I would say the last 2 experiences I had this year, really kind of cemented certain things and kind of just made things like really clear as to like who I am and how I need to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So was that first time with the 5 grams? Was that your first experience with psilocybin, or had you experienced it before?
No, yeah, I had some experiences before, like as a teenager, but more recreationally. It was never done in a way that was like therapeutic. It was more party, just like I said, teenager stuff, right? But that was definitely the first time I had a breakthrough. Like I had a mystical experience. Like that was whoa, like that. It was a whole, cause yeah, a 5 gram experience is a whole new ballgame compared to like some of the lower doses. Don't get me wrong. A lot can be done there, but 5 grams, it just, yeah.
Yeah. And you make an important point about that integration part, like how it can take a while to get the epiphanies, to integrate everything you learned. You mentioned to me also when we spoke earlier about having an experience with psychedelics, I think psilocybin in a group setting as well.
A little, one time, yeah. Well, I guess one thing you should know about me is I have a deeply introverted personality. I think on the MTBI, I'm an INFJ. And so yeah, for me, don't get me wrong. I get the concept and I understand that it helps people in that way when it's done in a group setting. But for me, I couldn't let go. I was not able I couldn't be around people for that sort of thing. For me, it's too personal. It's too, I had difficulties with it. But again, like I said, I understand, why it works for others and the whole thing. But for me personally, I'm more of a Terrence McKenna. I'm more of a, let's do 5 grams in a dark room with a 5-hour playlist and take some journal notes and just, kind of go like that. Yeah.
So with those experiences in your life, like the peyote, which sounded really significant, and then the psilocybin, what role did those experiences play in your life to, in terms of your personal growth or your connection with yourself and others, spirit, nature?
Whew. Well, let's see here. Trying to think here. That's a tough question because there's, I guess, the challenge I'm having is like, okay, which experience should I talk about? Because there's like probably at least a half a dozen that are each just their own kind of like, So, but I guess to answer your question, this this past year, or I guess the very last psilocybin session I had, which would have been in February, it was a 5-gram tea, and the download that I got was so crystal clear and so just like, this is who you need to be and this is how you need to conduct yourself. And it was just, it was so fast, and it was just like, it's like, yeah, that's why I use the word download, because it was just, and it just like, but of course, so much of stuff is happening, right? Other aspects of it, there were like these Egyptian kind of archetypes kind of going on, and just really kind of strange, fascinating, and bizarre, all rolled into one. But like I said, the message I had received when I came out of that experience, I was like, I don't think I'm going to need to do this again for like 4 or 5 years, maybe. Like, I mean, I feel like the spirits were just like, this is what you need to do. Now go do it. So I was like, it's kind of like that. Well, yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, so that would be the most recent one. I can talk about some of these other experiences though, too, if you'd like. I'm just not sure, how you want to navigate that.
I'm happy if whatever you want to share would be great.
Sure. Okay. So, so I guess one that comes to mind just right now, this would have been about 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say. Yeah. And so this one, I was living on Powell Street, the little apartment there. But yeah, so just another day in the life and, a high dose experience. And so in this particular situation, it was almost like, it was almost like a movie. It was almost like showing me a movie, right? It was like scenes from my first foster home, right? Which would have been in 1990. And it was a different time. And it was not a very good place. And so, anyways, it was, yeah, like I said, it would show me like a scene, a painful scene, we'll say. Let's say the moment of apprehension, we'll say. And so each time, let's just say in this experience, I spent a lot of time crying, a lot of time grieving this thing, because it was like, and this is the other thing too, when on a high dose, you have no choice but to just endure whatever's happening. There's no escape. You just gotta, and so yeah, it was kind of like that. And so it was forcing me to kind of look at this stuff. It was forcing me to be like, and I remember at the time I was like, why are you showing this to me, man? I buried that so deep. I put that away for so long. Like, why are you showing me this? And it was just, but afterwards, after, like 2 hours of just nonstop crying, there was like this catharsis. There was like a cathartic moment where like, it was almost like a purge, and it was almost involuntary too. I almost felt like my body was kind of enacting some kind of purge or some kind of, and I found that too with mushrooms sometimes. Is like, it'll make you do things involuntarily, like against your control. It can be subtle. It's not major, but it's these little things, and it kind of like, and so that was a moment where it was almost like my body was enacting this like purge. Like I was finally getting rid of that pain, that abuse, that whatever that was, right? Because it held me down for so long. It really affected me for a long time. And so to kind of work through that and kind of just finally just kind of let that go. I felt a little lighter after, and just kind of like be able to breathe a little more, like just, so yeah, it took a little time after that one to kind of just process and just kind of think about it and just kind of like, so yeah. Yeah. So that's one of them. Yeah.
That's very valuable. It's a very valuable experience to have. it's a good relationship with the mushrooms to do that for you. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Was there anything else you wanted to share with your experiences?
Well, I guess I was going to say too, just because it's kind of important. So, I would say a lot of my work with psilocybin has been a lot of shadow work, right? It's been a lot of shadow work. It's been a lot of looking at some tough stuff, some stuff that you might not necessarily always want to look at. And so, what I would say is that psilocybin is super beautiful, but it's not always roses and rainbows. Sometimes you find yourself in just a whoa, and it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. And so for people who are interested in it, tread carefully, do your research, and just, kind of go like that. That's what I would add.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying that for you, doing this alone is kind of your way.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's something that you, that you would want to have somebody there forever to be with you, or that you need to talk to somebody after, or is it very solo for you, the whole thing?
Well, I would say the experience itself is definitely solo, but yeah, definitely afterwards, after the experience is over and maybe even had a couple hours or a day to just kind of recover, then that urge to talk to someone is like, yes, hey man, this is what happened, and just kind of hash it out like that. So yeah, and so a buddy of mine, he's aware of my interest in psychedelics, and he's knowledgeable in that area too. And so he's kind of been good for helping me kind of understand these experiences a little more deeply.
Yeah, that's good to have that. So I want to go back to something,
Sure.
that we touched on a little bit before, but about your run and
Sure.
the focus that you want, the awareness that you wanted to raise for the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And did you want to say anything more about that and what that means to you personally, from your communities and your life?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one part that I might add, well, I guess I'll just tell the story, I guess. So yeah, my mom was murdered on September 16th, 2011. And so I remember at the time, so this would have been the 17th, I guess. But the police show up 3 a.m. I have no idea. I'm just here, knock at the door, and it's like, oh, it's 2 detectives walk in. I'm like, okay. And they sit down and like, okay. And so they open up their binders, whatever they got there, and they're just and they're like, we're sorry to inform you that, your mom passed away last night, and that sort of thing. Right. And so the moment they kind of said it, the words were uttered, I kind of like tuned them out. I was in shock, sort of, right? Like I was kind of just like, what? Like, what did they just say? What? And it's taking a moment for it to register. And so after a few minutes, I just told him, I was like, okay, we'll have to do this tomorrow. I need to go and get some air. I need to go and just kind of process this. And so they were like, okay. And so the next day, went back there, and they were kind of walking me through some of the details of what had happened. And so basically what had happened was, her and her boyfriend were arguing, and there were witnesses that kind of were aware of this. And I think there was even someone on the street who kind of saw it happen. But, the official police report is that she accidentally fell out of a 6-story window. However, she had a history with her boyfriend. Like, it was a domestically violent relationship, right? And so what I know about domestic violence is that it tends to escalate, right? And so this was a perfect, for me, what I couldn't understand is how can you guys not put this one together? This one is so obvious. This guy's a terrible person. He's abusive. He's abused my mom in the past. And you know what I mean? And then I even remember when I had to go pick up her stuff, I was looking at the actual window itself, And I was like, there's just no way somebody accidentally, falls through there, because just the way it was and stuff was like somebody had to really, and so unfortunately, after a short investigation, I was basically told that, it was ruled an accident. And here's the thing too, after they interrogated him, he fled back home to Saskatchewan, like immediately. Like as soon as he had the opportunity to run, he was gone. And again, sign of guilt, right? But of course, the police were unable to, whatever it is, what it is, right? And so yeah, for a few years there, I attended the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls March in Vancouver that they have. I believe it's on Valentine's Day. And so I was attending that, but after a few years, I kind of lost heart a bit. I kind of just, I was like, and I guess in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to kind of deal with this in my own way. And so it's kind of weird. It took years later to kind of get to this place where it's like, now I feel like I'm finally able to do something meaningful in her memory. So, yeah.
I'm really sorry for your loss. And this is a very meaningful thing to do for her. So it's really great. I'm sorry to kind of bring you to that place, and thank you for being open with me about that.
No worries.
So one of the things that you're also doing as part of your run is doing a GoFundMe for MAPS Canada. And, you talked before about the role that books and podcasts kind of played, in your journey of learning about psychedelics. And, you had mentioned to me before kind of the respect and admiration you had for people like Rick Doblin and organizations like MAPS. So I want to just thank you for doing that GoFundMe. And please tell me about your kind of, passion and support for psychedelic research.
Sure. Yeah. So, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of the research they did at Johns Hopkins with Dr. Roland Griffiths, and their study, I believe it was on cancer patients with depression as a secondary diagnosis. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. And so just reading up on that and how like people who are basically on their deathbed were having these mystical experiences, and now they're comforting their family all of a sudden. It's just like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. That just makes no what? But then of course you read into it more and you're like, oh wow, okay, there's something here. And so that was a major one. The other one I believe I read was it was a book. I think it was DMT, the spirit molecule. It was the study they did at the University of New Mexico with DMT, and just kind of going through that. And that was kind of a strange book to read because you're reading some of the reports of people DMT experiences, and you're just like, whoa, okay. But for me, I'm deeply fascinated by that. I'm just like draw like a moth to a flame. I'm just like, oh, I want to know more. And so I kind of just went like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I've got a fair amount of books at home. One of the ones I'm reading right now is Sacred Knowledge by William Richards. And so yeah, it's a good book. I like learning about this stuff. I like learning about the different ways that people are using psychedelics. And even in weird ways too. Apparently, I think there was one study on LSD where it can help with cluster headaches or something like that. So it's like psychedelics have this like kind of broad use in different ways, like in all these different ways it can be used. It's just like, it's such a fascinating, like, and then not only that, it's also the molecule itself is shaped similarly to serotonin. So it fits right onto our 5-HT2A receptor. It's like, okay, how do you explain that one? How does that work? So it's like, I don't know. So I'm just kind of like, I just like this stuff. So yeah.
You're fascinated by it. So that's yeah. And, thank you for your support with that. So what's next? Like, what's next for you? Like, what do you, hope to do in your community to, with psychedelics or otherwise? What's next for you? You seem like a very kind of passionate and ambitious, and dedicated person when you have a goal.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, one idea, maybe this might take some time, but I don't know. One potential idea I think that might be of value, and again, this would take some planning, but okay. So yeah, some type of indigenous based psychedelic retreat center. So like one that's kind of based around that, have aspects of the culture kind of a part of it, like maybe a sweat lodge or something, or some kind of ceremonial stuff, but also integrating the scientific aspect of it as well, like the tools that have been shown to be useful for this sort of thing, but then also having that indigenous kind of component to it too. So yeah, and so I guess, have one centered in maybe like Ontario or like the Treaty 3 area, and then kind of have communities all kind of chipping in and that sort of thing. And so, that's just an idea. It's I don't know what that would take to make that happen. But that's certainly something I think that could be of beneficial, could be of use, and people could benefit a lot from that. So, yeah.
It all starts with an idea. So it's a good place to start. So before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to share, anything we didn't talk about, or anything you'd like to promote with the audience?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is, check out my YouTube channel. It's the Minnow Bima Dizawin channel. I'm sure Rielle will provide a link to that. And then I also created a Facebook page that just kind of shows, I've been taking a picture of my Google Watch every time I do a run and just kind of posting it on there. But yeah, and then also, of course, the GoFundMe page as well. People want to check that out and donate to MAPS and the work that they do. That would be super awesome. But I think those are probably the main ones. Yeah, the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, and then GoFundMe. Yeah, I think those are the three main ones. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for the time you spent talking today and sharing your life and your insights with us. And we'll be thinking of you and your run on July 1st. And we will post this on July 1st as well. So it will be there with the same day as your run. I'd like to also thank our production team and to the audience for listening. And if you'd like to support or stay connected with MAPS Canada, I'll share some links as well for donating and for signing up for our newsletter, and follow us on YouTube for more great conversations like the one we had today with Shawn. Thank you, Shawn.
Awesome. Thank you, Rielle.